Welcome to MarkGuy, where we explore self-improvement, motivation, habits, mindset. In today's episode, we're discussing why high-status men use escorts, the secret they all have in common. You know what no one tells you about success? The higher you climb, the more transactional your world becomes. Every smile has a price tag. Every conversation has an agenda. And somewhere between your third promotion and your seventh business trip this month, you realize that genuine human connection has become the one luxury your money can't actually buy, except when it can just not in the way society wants you to believe. Picture this scene because it plays out in penthouses from Manhattan to Monaco every single night. A man worth 8 figures sits in his corner office at 9 p.m., scrolling through his phone. Not through Tinder or Bumble. He gave up on those algorithms years ago. He's looking at a different kind of website, one with professional photos and hourly rates that would make most people's mortgage payment. His assistant thinks he's reviewing quarterly reports. His wife, if he has one, thinks he's closing another deal. But what he's really doing is shopping for the only form of honesty left in his world. A transaction so clean, so transparent, that it might be the most authentic relationship he has. Let me paint you the reality that nobody discusses at those leadership conferences or success seminars. When you reach a certain level of status, and I'm talking about men who move markets with their decisions, who have their calls screened by 3 different assistants, something fundamental shifts in how the world relates to you. Every person you meet is running a calculation in their head. What can you do for them? What doors can you open? What lifestyle can you provide? Your presence becomes a commodity, and here's where the psychology gets interesting. When everything about you becomes transactional, the only way to feel human again is to flip the script entirely, to be the one setting the terms, to be the buyer, not the product. This isn't about sex. If it were just about sex, these men could have affairs with eager interns or pursue the countless women who throw themselves at power. No, this is about something much deeper. It's about control in a world where they've lost control of their own narrative. Think about the cognitive load of being constantly on. Every dinner party is a networking event. Every golf game is a potential merger. Every conversation with your spouse includes subtext about the prenup. Your kids see you as an ATM with a pulse. Your friends, are they really friends, or are they just well-positioned allies? The mental exhaustion of perpetual performance creates what psychologists call decision fatigue. But it's worse than that. It's existence fatigue. It's the bone-deep weariness of never being able to just be without being something to someone. Here's where it gets darker. The escort represents something these men haven't experienced since before their first million, a relationship with clearly defined boundaries. She doesn't want to marry him. She doesn't want to be introduced to his business partners. She doesn't care about his stock portfolio or his political connections. The transaction is so pure it's almost meditative. 1 hour, 1 price. No hidden agendas, no manipulation. No wondering if she's laughing at his jokes because they're funny or because she wants him to fund her startup. The irony is breathtaking. These men are paying for the absence of transaction in every other relationship they have. But let's dig into the psychology, because this is where the pattern becomes universal. High-status men operate in what behavioral economists call a trust recession. The higher your net worth, the lower your ability to trust that people's motivations toward you are genuine. It's not paranoia if it's true, and for these men, it usually is true. That beautiful woman at the charity gala, she Googled your net worth before approaching you. That new friend from the country club, he's already planned how to pitch you his investment opportunity. This creates a psychological phenomenon known as relational uncertainty, the constant questioning of every interaction's authenticity. And human beings, even wealthy ones, aren't wired to sustain that level of skepticism. It literally rewires your brain, dampening the oxytocin response that creates bonding and increasing cortisol production that maintains vigilance. Phase 1 begins with success itself. You work 80-hour weeks, sacrifice everything for the climb, and finally you make it. The money flows, the recognition arrives, the power accumulates. But then phase 2 hits like a delayed concussion, the realization that everyone around you has changed, or maybe you're just seeing them clearly for the first time. Your old friends feel distant, intimidated, or worse, entitled. New people enter your orbit, but they're drawn to your aura, not your essence. Phase 3 is where the escorts enter the picture, and it's not desperation, it's strategy. It's the same calculated decision-making that built their empires, applied to their personal lives. Consider the paradox of the successful man's marriage, if he has one. She might be beautiful, intelligent, accomplished in her own right. But can he ever know if she would have chosen him without the success? Would she stay if it all disappeared tomorrow? These questions poison the well of intimacy. Even during their most tender moments, there's a voice in his head calculating the cost-benefit analysis. Is this love, or is this a luxury service with a very expensive cancellation fee called divorce? The escort paradoxically offers more honesty. She wouldn't be there without the money, and everyone knows it. That transparency becomes intoxicating to men who swim in an ocean of subtext and pretense. But here's what really drives this behavior, and it's something most people won't understand unless they've lived it: the burden of being everyone's solution. When you're the high-status man, you're not allowed to have problems. You're supposed to be the rock, the provider, the one with answers. Your vulnerability is a liability. Your weakness is a market indicator. Show uncertainty in your marriage and watch your wife's respect evaporate. Show doubt at work and watch the sharks circle. The escort doesn't need you to be strong. She doesn't need you to have answers. For 1 hour, you can be nothing more than a client, and in that nothingness, you find something that feels suspiciously like peace. This dynamic creates what I call intimacy inversion. The paid professional becomes more intimate than the life partner. Not physically, but emotionally. She sees him without his armor, without his performance, without his carefully maintained image. He can tell her about his fears, his doubts, his absolute exhaustion with being who everyone needs him to be. She won't judge because judgment isn't part of the service. She won't gossip because discretion is part of the price. She won't use his vulnerability against him because, after the hour ends, she disappears back into the ether of the city, taking his secrets with her. And that's when reality hits. Sitting in his Tesla in the parking garage afterward, or in his home office at 2 a.m., the truth crystallizes with brutal clarity. He's not buying sex, he's buying simplicity. He's not paying for companionship, he's paying for comprehension. In a world where every relationship feels like a chess match, he's paying to stop playing. The escort isn't filling a void in his bed. She's filling a void in his ability to exist without performing. She's the only person in his life who wants nothing from him except a clearly stated fee. Think about the psychological toll of perpetual evaluation. Every moment of these men's lives is measured, optimized, leveraged. Their time is literally money, sometimes thousands of dollars per hour. They've internalized this so completely that they can't turn it off. Dinner with the family? That's an hour that could have been spent reviewing contracts. Weekend getaway with the wife? That's time away from the Singapore deal. The escort appointment is perhaps the only hour in their week that has no opportunity cost, no alternative use, no optimization potential. It simply is what it is. And that simplicity becomes addictive to minds that run like overclocked processors. But let me tell you where this gets truly dark. It's in the recognition pattern. These men start to see the escort-client relationship as the template for all relationships, just with less honesty. Their business partnerships? Essentially escort services where everyone pretends the money isn't the main factor. Their marriages? Long-term contracts with unclear terms and expensive termination clauses. Their friendships? Mutual benefit societies disguised as emotional connections. Once you see all relationships as transactional, paying for the transaction directly starts to seem like the most honest option available. The girlfriend experience that many high-end escorts offer isn't about fooling these men into thinking it's real. They know it's not real, that's precisely the point. It's about having a relationship where the artificiality is acknowledged, where the performance is professional rather than personal, where the boundaries are clear rather than constantly negotiated. She pretends to care, but her pretending is honest. She's not pretending because she wants something else from him later. She's pretending because that's what he paid for. And when the session ends, so does the pretense. Clean, simple, honest in its dishonesty. Here's a psychological truth that will disturb you. Many of these men report feeling more seen by escorts than by their own families. Not because the escort actually sees them, but because with her, they can stop managing their image. With their wives, they're managing the image of the successful husband. With their children, the image of the providing father. With their colleagues, the image of the unstoppable leader. With the escort, they're just another Tuesday afternoon appointment, and there's a profound relief in that anonymity. The intermittent reinforcement schedule of their regular lives, will this deal close? Will this relationship last? Will this investment pay off? Creates a constant state of psychological tension. The escort relationship operates on what psychologists call a fixed ratio schedule. Pay money, receive service, no variability, no uncertainty, no wondering if today will be different. For men whose entire lives are built on variables and probabilities, this fixed equation becomes a psychological anchor. But here's where the pattern gets universal, where every man reading this might recognize something uncomfortable. It's not really about the money or the status, it's about the exhaustion of performance. These high-status men are just the extreme example of what many men feel, the pressure to be something rather than someone. The escort represents the fantasy not of sexual variety, but of relational simplicity. One role, 1 hour, one transaction, no follow-up required, no emotional labor, no wondering what she really thinks or what she really wants. Phase 1 of the realization. Recognizing that success doesn't solve the problem of loneliness, it amplifies it. Phase 2, understanding that the more you have to offer, the less you can trust what people offer you. Phase 3, accepting that in a world where everything is for sale, the most honest relationships might be the ones with price tags attached. And now we reach the climax, that 3 a.m. moment of clarity that comes to every one of these men eventually. He's lying in his California king bed, in his mortgage-free mansion, next to his sleeping wife, or in his empty penthouse, and the thought hits him like ice water in the veins. He's not living. He's performing living. Every relationship, every interaction, every moment of his day is a performance, and he's forgotten what it feels like to exist without an audience. The escort isn't providing intimacy, she's providing intermission, a break from the show that has become his life. The panic sets in slowly, then all at once. What would happen if he stopped performing? If he stopped being the provider, the leader, the solution to everyone's problems? Would anyone still be there? Would his wife still love him? Would his kids still respect him? Would his friends still call? The answer terrifies him because deep down, he already knows. The escort doesn't love him either, but at least she's honest about it. At least with her, the terms are clear. At least with her, he knows exactly what he's worth. $500 an hour, not a penny more, not a penny less. His phone buzzes. Another deal, another opportunity, another performance required. He'll take it, of course. He always does. But next Thursday at 3 p.m., he has an appointment. 1 hour where he doesn't have to be anyone's solution. 1 hour where the only expectation is payment. 1 hour of transactional clarity in a life of relational confusion. Is it healthy? No. Is it sustainable? No. Is it filling the void? Absolutely not. But it's honest, and in his world of infinite complexity, that simplicity feels like the only real thing left. The revelation comes not as enlightenment, but as exhaustion. These men aren't buying sex, they're buying simplicity in a complex world. They're not paying for companionship, they're paying for clarity in relationships. They're not weak or immoral or broken. They're responding rationally to an irrational situation where success has made authentic connection feel impossible. The escort isn't the problem. She's the symptom of a deeper issue, the commodification of all human relationships in late-stage capitalism where everyone is selling something, and the only honest transaction is the one that admits it. But here's the real kicker, the truth that no success seminar will tell you. The problem isn't that these men use escorts. The problem is that they've structured their entire lives in a way that makes escorts feel like the only honest relationship available. They've climbed so high that everyone below them looks like they're reaching for a handout, and everyone beside them looks like competition. They've won the game only to discover that the prize is isolation disguised as independence. You want to know the secret they all have in common? It's not power or money or some dark psychological flaw. It's simpler and sadder than that. They've all reached a point where being wanted for their resources feels more honest than being wanted for themselves because they're no longer sure there's a difference. They've become their net worth, their status, their ability to provide, and the escort is the only one who seems to see that clearly. She doesn't pretend to want him. She wants what he can provide, and in a twisted way, that's the most honest relationship he has. So what's the lesson here? What's the takeaway for the average man who might never reach these heights but recognizes the pattern? It's this: success without authenticity is just expensive loneliness. The higher you climb without maintaining genuine connections, the more transactional your world becomes. The escort isn't the problem, she's the market's solution to a problem the market created. When everything becomes a transaction, Paying for the transaction directly starts to seem like the only honest option left. The truth is, these men aren't paying for sex. They're paying for the one thing their success can't buy, the freedom to stop performing. And that might be the most expensive service of all.